and all the rest of it, it dumps. So what that says to us is that if you don't give a thing meaning, then even though information is available to you, you don't get it in your conscious mind. You don't have conscious experience of it because you don't give it any meaning. And therefore, if you wish to grow in consciousness, you need to give things meaning.
You can't avoid everything you've ever experienced. Every sight, smell, sound, touch, feeling, sensation, every word, everything is still here. It's just accessing it. And its understanding, is it still important to me? If something happened once in my life that I didn't like, should I in any way respond to it today? It's not important today. What's important today is today. How can I get to where what I'm dealing with is my emotions today? That's what we're going to be focused on, so we don't make stupid things happen. Smart people do foolish things all the time. And then how many times have you said, why'd you do that? Why? That was just stupid. Let's take this journey. I'm going to be sharing some questions with you and statements. My questions and statements are not to be anything more than a suggestion, a point of departure, in the hopes that maybe some will penetrate into that subconscious and open you up and allow some variance. Everything in life has an expiration date. We plan early on in life to have everything happen with a sense of permanency. Our friendships, our relationships, everything, our health, it's always supposed to be there, so we take it for granted. When you're young, you never think about getting old, you never think about dying. When you get older, you don't think about being young and vital again because you assume you can't. Your genes can't do it, or can they? So in the passage that we're in, we rarely appreciate the significance of that passage in relationship to everything else we're doing in life for the next stage. As a result, in our society, we have no transitions. There's no one there to help us as we go through each transition of life. We're never in the moment we're in. We're always someplace else. So by being present for the moment you're in, you're conscious of everything that's present with you. And if you're conscious of everything that's with you, you can then give it the attention that it deserves. That includes people and your companions, and includes yourself.
I noticed at a wedding that I had to do not long ago that the bride was so concerned about etiquette and about everything being absolutely perfect that she was having an absolutely miserable day. Now, if you think about that, I mean, here this should be like the happiest day in her life, right? Instead of being the happiest day in her life, she was so concerned about all the little details and what's going wrong here and what's going wrong there that she wasn't present, that she wasn't being herself, that she wasn't being able to be loving to this guy that she was marrying.
How often do we master our personalities instead of our lives? Almost everyone masters how you communicate. Every little nuance, how to act and react. We have every single thing already in our defense system. So where's there any opportunity for someone to see the authentic person? If all you've done is mastered your personality, then you're always going to be what you think people want you to be in order for you to be acceptable to them. And you're not going to be anything that you're going to think is going to be rejected or criticized, are you? So as a result, we're masquerading ourselves all the time. Well, how does that allow someone to know who we are as people? What if you have thoughts that someone might reject? Well, does it make it any better because they like your personality that somehow they're going to accept your inner being? Why not just say, this is who I am, master who you are? Because every human being has beauty in them. Every human being has the wonderful quality of life. They can distort it. They can deny it. They can hide it. They can manifest a negative, toxic, violent nature, but that is not who they were born as. Every human creature is born, every human being is born with unconditional love. Between that unconditional love And what people become is the conditioned self. The authentic self is the real self. It's who you really are. But allowing yourself to be who you really are means that you have to unencumber yourself of everything you're not.
Seeking out there will never get you what you want. Seeking inside and looking for the higher self or the higher truth will get you what you want. So for example, just trying to be happy by changing a job or getting a new husband or wife is not going to make you happy necessarily. Whereas if you honestly strive internally and then come at the world through what you learn internally, you will be happier.
What if you just said, I don't have to always be hustling my personality, giddy and chitty and wise and wonderful and sexy and clever and the Upper West Side, serious. Everyone on the Upper West Side, serious, Gary. We don't laugh. Well, we do, but we control that laugh. It's almost as, sometimes we can be dying laughing, but we control. We'll be going, ha 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 ha. You won't know it. Because if we laughed, you're not going to think we're serious. And we'd rather be known as being serious, because with seriousness means you're a suffering person, and we gain a lot from the fact that we are suffering. Like artists, we suffer.
We're living in a time where there's an inordinate amount of suffering. There's an inordinate amount of pain. There's an inordinate amount of violence all around the planet. And the planet is deeply at risk. And each and every single one of us has the capacity to be a warrior of creating a new world. And that new world is one where love and caring supersedes competitiveness and aggression.
The Buddha explained, and metapsychiatry explains, that all suffering begins with desire. We want something. We only want something because we feel we lack something. We're not at peace with what is.
As long as you're able to learn a new lesson, then the suffering is meaningful for you. You don't feel resentment and anger and all the unpleasant feelings if you learn a lesson, and that's a big if. We as mental health professionals, we need to help people to recover and discover a new meaning, because every time you have a crisis or a trauma or an unpleasant incident, your whole life and the view that you have of life changes, right? And with that, you start learning new lessons, you start growing with it.
The human ego, which is that part of our minds, not the way Freud defined it, but I think it's more the way the Easterners talk about it. It's that part of us that is more the irrational. It's the part that wants to create pain and suffering. It's the part that wants to perpetuate our suffering. It's the voice of illusion, the one that makes promises to solve problems, but always creates more of the problem. So I think that part of the mind that keeps us embedded in suffering uses the brain and uses the body in that way to make those imprints. But it really has no power except what we give to it by listening to it and believing it. And these kind of processes show us how we can take away what seems to be so powerful of that voice inside and just totally erase it and show it disappears into nothingness.
How much external and internal clutter do you have? And how much time and energy does it take to maintain it? A lot. Now that's stupid, isn't it? All that clutter. Yeah? And what good is it in the end? Because everything you thought was so important one time, sooner or later, you stop using. Well, take a look at how many clothes you got in your closet. Not enough, she said. No, she wants more clutter. But most people have an enormous amount of clutter. Just look in the average person's garage and attic and everywhere. Well, what would happen if you just said, all right, 3 things are going to happen. I'm going to use it regularly, give it away, or throw it away. And I'm not going to give it to a charity. I'm going to find a person who could use this and give it to another human being. Recognize that person's needs and honor them and give it to them. But we're afraid to let go of things. Why? Because our clutter represents our successes. It represents the different stages of our evolution. You are what you possess. You are what you achieve. You are what you're recognized for. So if you're recognized for doing more and collecting more, then you have to have more to show that you have some substance. Who recognizes the person who doesn't have the big house? Who recognizes the person who doesn't have the great bod, the big bank account? Just look at our media.